Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast that, like the Cardinals, might be worse in 2025. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Vince Amorca. Hey, Nate H. If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. And today's opening bit came to us from Charlie. Charlie, thank you so much for sending that in. I think pretty kind, honestly, to say we might be worse in 2025. I'm pretty sure it's just been a decline from day one.
You know, this is a rocket ship. I think.
Yeah, you think?
I don't have anything else to say, but this is a rocket ship.
Getting high energy from Hambone today. Hambone, I did something kind of fun over the weekend that I think is...
Me too.
Well, I'm going to talk first. So I went and saw the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Something I've always been interested in. Did you know they've been going since the 20s?
Didn't know it was that long. I know that Bob Gibson was a Harlem Globetrotter.
There you go.
That's my Harlem Globetrotter fun fact.
I don't think I knew that.
Well, now you do.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, it was goofy. One thing that was really funny is that the show starts with like 6 different countdowns that all kind of lead to nothing, which for a family-oriented like children's sort of thing, doing a whole bunch of countdowns is both fun but also really surprising that they kept being like 5, 4, 3, and then like it would just be like another guy coming out to extend the announcement. It was a very long lead up to get the team out on the court. But I'll tell you what, they sure can spin those basketballs.
Yeah. That's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, there was one guy who had a ball spinning. He put another spinning ball on top of it.
No, he did
Yeah,
not.
He couldn't believe it.
Oh my God. Was this sparsely attended?
No, it was quite attended.
Oh,
it was
okay.
at Enterprise Center.
Which one is that?
Where the Blues play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'd converted the whole thing into a basketball court, had seats all the way, basketball court smaller than a hockey rink, and just much less space. So like had seats all around it. I wouldn't say that it was like sold out, but it was a pretty large crowd, which I was actually kind of surprised by. I was surprised that they'd book at Enterprise and that they would fill it so much. But yeah, it was well attended and it was a lot of fun.
Was this a Nady idea or where did this come from? I don't see you as a person who's like, oh, we got to go take the kids to see the Harlem Globetrotters.
Well, no, it was not. It was actually even more surprisingly, it was my sister's idea.
Okay.
But her kids are really into sports, and so she was like, "Do you guys want to go?" And I've always really liked the concept of the Globetrotters, and so I didn't even know they were coming to St. Louis. I of course was telling everyone about the Savannah Bananas, who are also coming to St. Louis, in a few months, that I'm very excited about. Although I haven't heard from the lottery thing yet. Like everyone, I signed up day one, and I haven't heard yet.
I know. Fingers crossed. I'm waiting.
Yeah. But I was like, for sure, let's totally go. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you expect it to be. A bunch of trick shots and slam dunks and whatnot. They have a microphone on the main guy, Hammer, and he's just out there doing hijinks the entire time, which is fun. So yeah, it was fun.
Who won?
Well, it was I'm a real fool, but I had a lot of money on the Generals. And,
no. That's okay. Your kids aren't going to college.
No. College is for chumps.
Cool.
But yeah, it was cool. But I'm really hoping to get to go to the Savannah Bananas, which is I think at this
Well, I
point.
think I think the Globetrotters occupy like a very wholesome space,
Yeah,
and the bananas are kind of like they're a little nasty, you know? They're kind of bad.
nasty Globetrotters.
They kind of are. Like there's twerking, there is it's just a little it's PG-13 rather than
Sure.
PG.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I wonder like with baseball, basketball, there's just always something going on, and there's so much opportunity for goofaroonie, like
For what?
everyone loves everyone loves an alley oop. You know what I mean? Everyone
And it's
loves
inherently hilarious.
yeah, yeah. Baseball we are laughing. Baseball, you got a lot of space to fill. So why not fill it with twerking and whatnot?
Stilts and all
Stilts.
kinds of organized dancing.
Uh-huh.
What I think is takes the bananas to the next level, though, is that there is like the whole. I think the idea that if a fan catches a foul ball, the player is out. Stuff like that. That's taking it to heights that the Harlem Globetrotters couldn't even dream of. That's how do you get the fans that included in the game?
Yeah. They were doing what you would expect, like bits with fans, like bringing them out on like
Bring them out.
bring squabble up. They brought a guy like he took a guy's shoe off and then made him come out on the court and like do a dance with him, which was hilarious. Little things like that. But yeah, it's not.
Wholesome,
Yeah,
good time.
wholesome good time. They had something called the Big Chain Challenge, which was kind of confusing as to what actually was going on, but people were awarded giant chains, which, I'm always here for.
Yeah, that's how you kind
You
of
think of me and you think of
get through life, I guess.
definitely. I have a big chain sort of
Oh
energy, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Do your chain, hang low, do it, wobble to it.
Remember when like every rap song was a kid's song for a
So
little bit?
who was that rapper? He's from St. Louis, and I remember I went
Was
to
it
my
Chingy?
girlfriend. No, it wasn't Chingy. It was somebody who was more of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to look it up, but I went to my girlfriend at the time's prom. She went to Lindenwood? No, that's a college.
Mm,
The high school in St. Louis that starts with an L. It doesn't
sure.
matter. And that rapper came to the prom because he was dating somebody at that school, and it was like the Beatles showed up. It was crazy. And they
Yeah.
played the song, of course.
Yeah.
Jibs. His name was Jibs.
Oh,
Okay.
sure, of course. How did we forget
Yeah,
Jibs?
Jibs. I went to a prom. So that record came out in 2006, and I think that prom was 2006. So it was the year that came out. He showed up at the high school. Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, there.
Lindbergh High School.
Lindbergh.
Boom.
Okay, we got
Shout
there.
out.
Important.
Yeah.
Important. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that we moved on from like everybody sampling children's songs. Now those are just reserved for slowed down horror movie trailers.
Do your chain hang low. Yeah. Or Joker
Ring
movies.
around the rosy. Doom doom. That sort of shit.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
It works. It works.
It does work. Kids are creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they are.
All right, let's well, I don't know. Anything fun you wanted to talk about, or should we talk about the Cardinals?
Anything fun I want to talk about? Not really. I don't know. It's the new year. We talked about that. I went skiing over the weekend. That was really fun.
Was there some fresh pow? Did you whip
Oh,
that
the
hog?
POW was at least
Yeah.
a week old, my friend. It had done been sitting around. I tried to we were staying up in the mountains this weekend, and I'm an okay cook. I can put some food together every
Sure.
once in a while. And I thought, ooh, I'm gonna bake my friends some cornbread muffins to go
Okay.
along with this chili.
Wow.
And I was so amped on it. I was having a great time. And they were looking great. At like the 10-minute mark, they were looking fantastic, Nate. You'd never seen cornbread muffins like this. It was unbelievable. Everybody was talking about how
They're
good
just
they were going to
standing
be.
around the oven, sticking their face against the glass. Looking good in there.
Yeah, greasing up my oven door. And I think the altitude, I think inattention to detail, and just a failure by me. They fell.
Forgot to put in the corn.
Forgot to put in the corn. Those some bitches fell. They completely collapsed on themselves, and they turned into like a candied corn. I don't know. It was like as thin as paper. It was just a complete disaster.
Yikes.
And it really put a damper on my weekend.
Were you able to break those things up, put them in the chili, maybe make a little?
Oh, it
like,
worked. It worked,
little-
but it was
yeah.
just it was pathetic.
Yeah.
I kept calling them reduced muffins.
A reduced muffin. That sounds
Yes.
great.
Yes. It was a 5-star dining experience.
Well, we had some fresh pow here ourselves. I don't know if you caught this, but we got
God! It says if the world is shut
Yeah.
down. Yes,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
social media flow or threads and everything. Everyone, it snowed in St. Louis.
you need to know. We got like 8 inches, Hambone. My kids are still not back at school.
Yeah.
And we've gone sledding multiple times. I tried to stand up on a sled and go down the hill, and that was hilariously ineffective.
That sounds right.
Just getting ready for skiing, which
Yeah,
I'll be
it's
there
a
with you in a
one-to-one.
few weeks.
It's
Yeah.
a 1-to-1. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is funny to me, especially, I haven't lived in St. Louis for about like 11 years or something like that now. And it is just funny to me the way that the city that I grew up in and know very well reacts to something like this. And then the current city that I live in reacts very differently. And it is funny because I have so many connections to St. Louis. Like I said, my social media feeds and everything is just like the apocalypse is now.
You up there in your mountain, you think you're so much better than us. Look
I
at
just
those
think that
fools down there. Ooh, there's little powder falling from the sky. Look at these ants crawling around those flatlanders. They're not like us in our mountains.
It shuts down the city in a way that I am no longer accustomed to, is all I'm saying. Because you're weak stock.
I don't think we should be expected to do anything when there's an inch or two of snow on the ground, okay?
I mean,
It's scary. Where'd it come from?
If we're just talking about lowering the bar for like shutting things down and not having to go to work, I'm on board with that. But you are of weak stock. You will die soon.
Ground scary when wet. What's this white stuff?
Yeah, that's a great point.
All right, we got a packed show, Hambone.
I can't believe I'm looking at this outline and I'm filled with dread and I'm scared to the bone because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of the items we have on this pack show.
We really do. So why don't you kick us off? I think we've got a novel topic to discuss today, something that we've not mentioned at all on the podcast yet.
Well, it's the only thing in Cardinals news. I don't think there's really much to hit on this other than my kind of claim from a few weeks ago just being validated by other news sources just makes me feel good.
Sure.
And like my fingers on the pulse of the St. Louis Cardinals trade rumors. As reported by Jonathan Denton, our favorite beat reporter.
Oh, yeah.
Never disappointed by his coverage.
Nope.
Or anything he's ever said.
Nope.
Boston remains a preferred destination for Nolan Arenado. What isn't known is if the Red Sox and Cardinals are anywhere close to a deal or if the Sox are particularly motivated to bring Arenado to Beantown. So I think this is important to bring up just because there's been so much fluff about this. And I think I know I was just talking up John Denton quite a bit, but I think he does really sloppy reporting. And he was basically reporting this as a fact. And he also followed this up with another tweet saying that Boston is not only looking at Arenado, but looking at moving Tristan Casas in a deal for this. And of course, if you read into this slightly more than just looking at John Denton's tweet, it's all bullshit. There's not really anything to it. Craig Breslow hasn't said anything. And there's a lot of moving spots, a lot of moving pieces that would have to take place for this deal to be possible. I think the only reason this got some traction is because Trevor Story is a Boston Red Sox and they are
Mm-hmm.
BFF4L.
Of course.
And I think Nolan is like clearly talk like that was, with Goldie coming in and with Matt Carpenter coming in. I think that is clearly like a point of emphasis for Nolan going to another team if he
He
goes
likes
to
his
another
bros.
team.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's kind of whatever.
Yeah. It is funny when you read that line. It says, the Red Sox remain a preferred landing spot for Arenado. It's the only piece of like actual news in that, and that's not even news. We know that. Everything else says there's no indication that Boston is interested or have made any efforts to make this a reality. Basically, tells this is just all speculation, which is what a ton of the trade. Everyone has to produce content. We're talking about it now. We're making content about it, right? But you see this across the board. People just speculate like, well, this makes sense, so let's write an article about it, even if there's no actual movement for it at all. And the Cardinals are always, this is like the standard offseason for the Cardinals, whether it's Arenado or not, because he kind of constantly can be improved, but any sort of improvement actually would be a pretty major move. So people just love to speculate on these gigantic moves that the Cardinals could make, but never actually really do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, we there's no way that the Red Sox end up where we do a deal where the Cardinals end up with Cassis. This would be like if something like this actually happened, he probably gets traded somewhere else for a haul, and then the Arenado thing happens, unless we speculate on some mega deal, which you and I've talked about a little bit, where it's like Arenado, Helsley, probably several other guys and some money, and then Cassis and maybe some other guys. But I get the sense that maybe the Red Sox are not as high on Cassis long term as some of us are. So if somehow they could swing a deal for this to happen, I'd be into it. But I just don't see it at all.
And I think I've said this, and but I'll try to make this as concise as possible. I actually think they are motivated to move Tristan Casas because Rafael Devers. They gave Rafael Devers $300 million. He is, if not, he is one of the worst third basemen in baseball. But they already they bought into this guy. He's going to be there for the foreseeable future. So they don't really have a space for Tristan Casas because we know almost every team except for the Dodgers do not want to have a dedicated DH. They want to be able to kind of move that around. So I would not be surprised if Boston thinks they can flip Casas for something productive and then plant Rafi Devers over at first base for the next decade. So that's why I think that there is actually a legitimate chance that Casas is going to move. And I think, when you talk about him coming to the Cardinals, I think that there probably is a pathway for Casas to become a Cardinal. But like you said, I think it's maybe you're throwing Helsley in, maybe you're throwing Fetty in, maybe you're throwing a young player that we don't really want to separate from. The Red Sox could really use Ivan Herrera. That would be a nice win for them, or a solid catching option that the Cardinals definitely have. And maybe it's also something like paying, if not all, a large chunk of Arenado's contract. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I think that even though Mo has said they're trying to move the money, I just don't believe anything he says, like at least to the press in regards to the trades and this offseason. So who knows? Maybe he would be willing to cover 75% to get Casas. But then, to be very clear, that wouldn't be the only thing that would get the job done. You would have to include, I think Fetty would probably make a lot of sense for the Red Sox. And then, Mr. or Mrs. Young position player that can, be on the Red Sox for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I suspect that they want to trade Casas for other win now pieces. And I just don't know that the Cardinals have what they would be looking for. Frankly, I'd still be surprised even if he did. Arenado, Helsley, Fetty, plus, and then we see where that goes.
I think you're overvaluing Casas a little bit.
Possibly.
I think he's a good hitter. And I think that he is a guy that could hit for average and power, but he is a first baseman and a first baseman
Yeah.
only. And
Yeah.
like, look at the league. Look at, Pete Alonso balked at a 3-year, $90 million contract from the Mets, and he's sitting here without a job.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think first basemen are valued. I think even in the last 10 years, first basemen have been devalued. And that is all he can do.
Yeah, this is further complicated by obviously the fact that they have made it very clear that they want Wilson Contreras to be the first baseman, and we're all pretty much on board with that. And I think the Cardinals also don't want to clog up a full-time DH sort of situation when we have plenty of guys that we would prefer to be hitting out of the DH spot than playing in the field. So it doesn't quite line up, and maybe I'm overvaluing Cassis, but I do think like he has the potential to be that middle of the order bat that the Cardinals really need without the peak Goldschmidt and Arenado. So,
And I want to be clear. I think he's going to be good too, but like he's projected next year, according to Steamer, for 2.5 WAR.
yeah.
So that is a slightly above average player, and of course that's a big discount because he plays first base. This has him putting up a 124 WRC plus, which isn't too shabby. Maybe he exceeds that, but I think first basemen are just kind of like nobody really cares. We don't have a ton of great first basemen in baseball right now. I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of the way the game fluctuates and players kind of cycle around. But
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So if Mo could pull it off, I'd be into it. But again, I just don't really see it lining up where he ends up with the Cardinals. And I think the Red Sox would probably end up being smarter, just trading him 1-to-1 somewhere else. So we'll see. As I mean, we're actually like 7 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting, which is fun. We're getting there. We passed the baseball solstice a week or so ago, which is the middle point in between the last out of the World Series and the first pitch of opening day. So we're more than halfway to opening day, and pitchers and catchers reporting is right around the corner. And we've been saying for a while that we really anticipated the Cardinals having a lot of these moves, especially around the pitching staff, done before that happens. And there's still 6 weeks is a lot of time for trades and in baseball and whatnot. So a lot could change between now and then, but still a little surprised that we are here in January with the same roster that we basically came out of the season with.
I mean, he's done nothing. He's literally, that's the next point I'm going to say. He's done nothing.
Yeah.
For all this blustering and all this winter meetings talk and it's shocking. And I think that Juan Soto slowed the offseason down, but that was weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, and that's always the case. There's every year there's something. There's a player last year.
Yeah.
It was Ohtani.
Right.
There's always like we're waiting for the shoe to drop, and then I know you're about to say Bregman is a big part of the whole Arenado thing. There's always something.
Yeah.
But I guess I always assumed that you can have more than one conversation at a time. But it certainly doesn't seem like that's the case.
I think a lot of teams can. I'm not sure the St. Louis Cardinals are allowed to do that, especially because they have their swim lanes. Nate, that Mo is the Pobo GM, whatever the fuck his role is. Michael Gersh has been put on unforced sabbatical that has I don't know, is a little confusing to me. And then Bloom is only allowed to focus on minor league players in development. So why use all three of those people?
No, you can't have them talking to each other.
Cannot do it. Mo can only think of one thing at a time. Now, to that point, the Cardinals have not spent a single dollar this offseason, which I think, the way that we were going into it isn't super surprising, but you expect some type of roster augmentation to happen every year because there are so many free agents. You have to play 162 games. So typically you add something to your roster, or for crying out, like subtract or move or something. But the Cardinals have not made or like I said, spent a single dollar in free agency. According to our good beat reporter, Derek Gould, the Cardinals have
Man, you are
announced.
coming out firing today about the various beat reporters.
I mean, Gould is good, Denton is bad. Like I don't feel bad about saying that. The way that he reports drives me insane. And then Gould is, of course, more knowledgeable and more measured, which I really
Sure.
appreciate.
Yeah, we love Gould.
I also think a lot of maybe like if you're in like a super Cardinals focus in baseball, you don't realize how actually good Derek Gould is and how many not. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyways, Gould is good. And he reported earlier this week that the Cardinals are in the market for a setup reliever who can help replace right-hander Andrew Kittredge near the back of the bullpen after he hit free agency back in November. So I think that this makes sense. It makes sense in the sense that the Cardinals are keeping Helsley for some reason.
Sure.
And I think that we all thought Helsley performed extremely well, focusing on the ninth inning, not really overextending himself for more than one inning, and having a solid core of relievers in front of him. The Cardinals, of course, are going to have JoJo Romero, who we hope can have a nice year. But I think that they are looking for a guy to be in between Brian Fernandez, JoJo Romero, whoever, if Liberatore steps up next year, and Helsley. And I am of the opinion, Nathan, that David Robertson should be the number one choice for the Cardinals in free agency for that setup role.
He certainly has been very effective for quite a while now. And at his age, I imagine wouldn't be too considerably expensive. I guess my question is, to what end here? Like, I think we've both have been pretty happy with how the Cardinals have gone about building their bullpen over the last few years, and it's been generally pretty good. The fault of the bullpen from the last few years has been more a failure of the starting rotation than the bullpen itself. And so I've really liked this approach of basically grabbing like 100 lottery tickets, right? Whether it's guys from other teams that flamed out, or injury risks, or reasonable contracts for guys. Like, I like it. Just get as many people as possible. And I wonder what, like, a David Robertson, who's one of the better arms on the market right now, like, are you looking for a 1-year deal that is just a stopgap to make sure you have extra arms and is maybe a trade piece at the deadline if he's doing really well? Or are you looking for, like, which veteran can we bring in to maybe be the guy if Helsley gets traded at the deadline and will be with us for a couple years to, narrative anchor the bullpen, et cetera, as we rotate all these guys around?
Yeah, I'm coming at this from sign him to a 1-year deal. I think you can get him for $10 to $12 million for 1 year. You can trade him at the deadline. And like you're talking about, I think the Cardinals, when they are grabbing 100 different relievers, trying to find electric arms or nasty breaking stuff or whatever that person might be featuring, that's great. And they should continue to do that. And they should also grab the most consistent reliever in baseball over almost the last 20 years. David Robertson has never been bad. Yeah. He was good last year at age 39, and he was good back in 2009. Like, the guy has just always been good. You can always trade him at the deadline. You can spend this money now and then hopefully find a deal that makes sense for your team at the deadline, where hopefully they're also trading Ryan Helsley or extending him or whatever the hell's happening. But I think go get that sure thing. It's only money. Assuming you're moving other pitchers, you're going to be able to save salary, which I really don't care about anyways. But I think that there are so many relievers in baseball, and no one is more consistent than David Robertson. I was looking at David Robertson's numbers last night.
Okay.
And I almost think he has a Hall of Fame argument. Now, He's not saving a ton of games because he's been in and out of a closer, but he's basically almost never been hurt. He is a career FIP under 3, and he's just unbelievably solid. He has been one of the better relievers in baseball over the past, like since 2009. Like I said, only a couple of players have a higher WAR than he does.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I kind of just got obsessed with David Robertson's Fangraphs page for a second, but it's very impressive, and I think it's if the Cardinals are going to go get one guy, this is a guy that they don't have, and I think could be immediate value, make Ryan Helsley feel comfortable, and then also, like I said, you can probably get something for him at the deadline, and only spend, if you give him $10 million and you're only paying him half of that, let's say at the trade deadline, you've paid him $5 or $6 million at that point. Yeah. It's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, the Hall doesn't typically respect the longevity play. No. Right? I'm sure.
No, I don't think he's going to, but I think I might vote for him if I had a vote.
Can you imagine them giving us a vote? Someday podcasters will get the respect they're due.
I think we have to apply for something. I don't think they're just gonna give it to us.
I'm submitting blank ballots every time.
Okay.
If Shoeless Joe Jackson can't be in, then no one can be in. I'm gonna just have a completely benign argument that just because I want people to click on my articles.
That one is funny though, because like Shoeless Joe is as famous as an old-timey baseball player gets. Like he kind of won either. He is more known than a lot of guys who played in that era. So
that's kind of the Pete Rose argument too. Would it be better for his legacy that he gets in, or what do you actually care about when it comes to legacy? Is it just like people remembering you? Because if so, then like his current standing is probably more valuable than just being a generic dude in the Hall of Fame.
I will say, and not to get way, way, way off topic, but if they put Pete Rose in posthumous, how do you say that word?
Posthumously?
Is that how you say it?
Post-apocalypsely.
If they put him in now that he's passed away, I'll say it that way. That is a slap in the face. That is such horseshit. They should not do that.
Now, if there's an apocalypse, I say put him in the Hall.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, put them all in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I saw Jason Stark today, I think it was, talking about how he voted
for him?
Andy Pettit. I saw, yeah, we're bros.
Cool. You should invite him on the pod.
Nah.
Hall of Fame reporter.
Our show's a little big for him. He needs to work his way up a little bit more.
Okay.
He voted for Andy Pettit with an argument about. I mean, now Andy Pettit's career numbers are pretty good, so it's not like a crazy stretch. But his whole argument was basically like, this dude did it for 18 years straight of just being like really, really good. And Pettit probably still won't get in, but maybe.
I think for my personal, and we'll have a Hall of Fame conversation later, by the way, a little spoiler alert for the end of the episode, but I think Andy Pettit should get in for his body of work. And I personally would include postseason success in a Hall of Fame conversation, and Andy Pettit has one of the best postseason careers of all time. So I'm on board.
And he's at 68 FWAR anyway, so it's not like he's low.
I think he's I have absolutely no problem with Andy Pettit getting in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So it is that argument. I mean, he had a pretty good peak. Don't get me wrong. He put up a 7.2 F4 in one of his seasons, but he really was more just like a 4 to 5 WAR guy for like, almost 20 years.
I mean, how many guys can do that? I don't know. Yeah. I'm here for it. I mean, there's obviously the PED conversation as well, which you and I don't care about, but obviously others do, and that might be what's keeping him out more than anything. But
could be.
I'm pro.
David Robertson might be an equivalent though. 1 to 2 F4 as a reliever is almost like 4 to 5 as a starting pitcher. So
I know there's somebody listening is probably telling me to shut the fuck up about David Robertson, but go look at his. It's crazy. It's very very impressive.
Yeah, to bring it back to that, I get what you're saying. I don't know that I fully agree unless it is just simply to try to trade him, because I can't get over the like play the kids, and also we're going to sign this 39-year-old pitcher to come in and take a bunch of high profile innings,
Well,
So I'm torn on it because there's a world where that works out really well, but I'm also like the Cardinals and their bad habits of leaning on veterans over. I just like don't want any of them even in
yeah.
play. So their only option is to give development innings to guys that we see as the future. But you got to have guys to pitch, and there's a world where our bullpen just completely blows up, and every game we're losing like 12-0, and so having these like rock solid guys in there is valuable just on a game day-to-day game management standpoint. And if you can trade him, then that's even better. I'd love to see the Cardinals do this. We see teams do this where they're signing these relievers to 1-year deals simply to flip them, and I think that's so smart during a
Well,
rebuilding year.
every team does this when they're in a rebuilding
Yeah.
year is they'll bring in a couple of guys at a fine salary with the sole purpose of them being traded at the trade deadline. And I don't see why the Cardinals how have they not identified somebody who this makes sense for them to do. And like I said,
Yeah.
I picked on David Robertson because I think he makes the most sense, but there's other guys out there that make a ton of sense as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if he
Well,
sucks, cut him.
yeah, there's still a lot of guys on the market right now.
Not a lot of
you know,
good guys though. There are a lot of guys.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think that's a good kind of your little mini rant there is a good transition to the next thing I wanted to talk about. And this is I found there's a comment that a user whose name on the Athletic website is Go D. I don't know who this person is, but if you didn't read Katie Woo's article from yesterday, it's a lot of the Cardinals. The way that I kind of paraphrased it was the Cardinals would like to have their cake and eat it too. Before I read Mr. or Mrs. Go D's comment, I'd like to say that a huge caveat. I think that a lot of what Mo says to Katie Woo and in the press and to everyone is a lot of a smokescreen. But I think that he did a very good job of summating the Cardinals' current place in the offseason, and I think how a lot of Cardinals fans feel. So if it's okay with you, Nate, I'm just going to read this comment by somebody.
sure.
Go D, whatever that means. All right. He says, it sounds like the everyone or wait, it sounds like everyone here wants everything. Mo wants Arenado to go clear a roster spot, but only if you take the money too, because it's imperative that the kids play and develop, but not the pitchers. Our veteran guys are pitching this year. Oh, and the return has to be sufficient, and Arenado has to go to a contender, but only in the right location. Also, we're going to be competitive, so we're not trading our most valuable asset, Helsley, but gate revenue is going down, so no free agency dollars.
Yeah, cool.
And I think there's a lot of fluff in there from Mo to try to leverage his players to get the most in trades and whatever else is going on. And I think that comment, I just think it does a very good job of kind of laying out where we find ourselves and maybe why we're also frustrated and tired of John Mozeliak being the face of the Cardinals front office.
Yeah, well, it's the continued circular statements that ultimately don't mean anything because he's either trying to play a game in the media or they're just kind of stuck and he has to talk to the media. So all he can kind of say is the same things over and over and over. I do think that there's a reality starting to dawn here is that like there's just not a heavy market for Arenado. And that I think has grinded to a halt a lot of this other stuff. I suspect that Mo and co thought they could flip this Arenado deal relatively quickly and have a much better understanding of their payroll and the lineup and the roster and just the direction they want to go much earlier in the offseason. And the fact that they've been unable to, whether it's because Arenado declined it or because the market hasn't developed quickly enough because of Bregman and all of that, and Alonso and all that. Who knows? But I suspect they wanted this to go a lot faster. Mo typically, when he says he wants to do something, in the rare instances where he has directly said what he wants to do, it happens pretty quickly. And the Cardinals are rarely one of the last to act in the offseason. It's not uncommon for us to be talking about deals in November and December. So I think everything is kind of stuck, and he's just talking in circles because there's really nothing for them to do until something loosens up here. But yeah, it certainly seems like they're trying to find this unicorn balance of moving Arenado, but keeping enough of the team to pretend to be competitive to continue to get gate sales and whatnot. But yeah, it's ultimately landing in them doing nothing, which is the worst possible outcome of this whole thing.
It is. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Like, has the retooling already been ruined? Yeah, and the dam could break open.
There's still time, Hambone. There's still time. We're not getting too doom and gloom.
The water could start flowing, and things could start changing.
The spice must flow.
The spice must flow, but it is hard to see a way out currently. But of course, 1 week could happen, and many things could change. And I think it's just frustrating, from a fan standpoint. It's like, well, if we're going to try to be competitive, why don't we actually try to be competitive? Or if we're going to, it's the sitting on the fence that can be so frustrating. And of course, you're seeing all these other guys fly off. You're seeing the Reds and the Cubs improve themselves in a way that makes sense. You're seeing Milwaukee, try their best to keep their payroll small, but also remain competitive. You're seeing Milwaukee extend their young superstars, or who we think is going to be superstar. It's just frustrating when the Cardinals they have nothing. I mean, we've had weeks of nothing, but like you said, it could break at any point.
Yeah, because we had a very exciting start to this offseason with all these new director hirings and coach and just all of that. We've been very on board with the direction that the front office is going. Now, what it's going to take for them to get up to speed, what kind of hands do they actually have in all of this, or are we seeing the last bit of control of John Mozeliak? I guess we just really don't know. But I'm not ready to get complete doom and gloom. If we get into pitchers and catchers reporting, and we actually have like Helsley and Fetty out there throwing, and Matz throwing pitches as a St. Louis Cardinal, and Arenado out there taking reps at third or even first, I'm going to start really being the like doom and gloom. This is about to be a really boring season sort of thing. Or rather, it can still be a fun season. There's a lot to look forward this season, regardless of those outcomes. But like this idea of the Cardinals orchestrating a really effective retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, and them like becoming a smart organization again, I will be much less confident in.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and we'll say this probably 150,000 times during the season. Another thing to remember is the Cardinals do play in the National League Central, and there is a very real scenario in which all of the other teams are completely feckless all season, and the Cardinals limp their way into a playoff spot just because, the Reds guys don't develop the way they're supposed to. Their pitching gets injured. The Cubs don't come together. The Brewers always seem like they're walking a tightrope. So, there's always that scenario, and I'm sure
of course
that's part of it. But okay, let's move away from front office stuff, and I got two little fun notes on some player news, and we can keep the show going. This is a packed show, Nate. We got a lot. Something that I thought was really fun is that Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols are both managing teams in the Dominican Winter League this season, and they have managed against each other a couple of times already. Kaepernick has been on one of those teams, which I also think is fun.
Yeah.
But two BFFs going at it down there in Dominican Republic. How fun is that?
You think they do the like brother, like where they do like a handshake, but they grab each other's forearms instead.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I could see Pujols being cool with that, but Yachty just seems like such a psycho. Maybe he can chill out with Albert.
Tries to choke slam Albert.
I think Pujols could take Yachty, don't you?
I feel pretty confident. I mean, this is an insane thing to talk about, but like Albert is like has multiple inches on him. But I don't know that center of gravity. It might be hard to knock over Yachty. Pujols has a lot more old man ailments.
That's a good point. Yeah, this is premium offseason talk here. Who would win in a fight, Albert Pujols or Yachty or Molina? Some actual player news. Nathan.
Okay.
Gordon Graceffo, you heard of him?
Heard of him.
Zach Thompson, you remember him?
No.
They have both had sightings at Tread Athletics.
I think you called this like last week, saying we're going to start getting reports of guys at these third-party pitching labs and hitting labs and whatnot.
Right. Well, of course, the Cardinals don't have an in-house hitting lab or pitching lab because they just can't get it.
You can't go around having those sorts of things.
You just can't get it built, you know. Yeah. The wheels,
zoning,
progress are slow.
Laws and
zoning.
It's tough, man. You
permits.
Build a building.
I've never done it.
I've only built a few, but it was like a whole thing.
I've done like sandcastles. Lincoln
this
Logs.
whole podcast is a sandcastle.
So both of them are there, which is just exciting to see those guys throwing. You know, I think what we saw from Graceffo last year should only make Cardinals fans really excited. And Zach Thompson, you know, I think is just a massive question mark for Cardinals fans. What is he going to be? While he has been down there, if you look at Tread Athletics Instagram, you can see video of Zach Thompson working on his changeup, which is exciting, and it looks pretty nasty from my dumbass eyes on watching him throw it on Instagram. And then he is also bringing in a gyro slider. He is working on the pitch design for his changeup and a gyro slider. And I will say that slider. And a gyro slider, for those who are not sickos who have a life, that just means it's basically like a power curveball, like a slider that breaks downward, and it's like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 miles harder than a normal curveball. It looks really good in ADH.
Yeah. You know what I love?
What?
Good Euro slider.
I just saw your it's like when you get ready to say something, and I know it's going to be stupid. It's never good.
We're doing a lunchtime record.
So you're getting hungry?
I'm hungry.
Oh, no. You didn't eat before this?
No.
I had waffles for breakfast. I'm feeling great.
I podcast best while malnourished.
Fasted?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think Tyler O'Neill said that he plays every baseball game fasted, which I find insane.
Well, when you're that yoked, probably adding any sort of... I imagine he feels every part of his body at every moment of existence. You know what I mean?
You do like to imagine that, don't you?
Tee. I bet he can feel like every, everything he's carrying with him at all times. And so probably wants to be light as a feather.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very sensitive.
This makes sense.
I don't know. I bet if that guy ate a couple of Twinkies, he might be able to play 140 games a year.
Sugar Rush?
Sugar Rush. A little fat on them bones. Yeah.
I wonder if anyone has suggested to Tyler O'Neill, son of Mr. Canada, that maybe he should just eat a few Twinkies.
I don't know. Like, I got a couple of extra LBs. When's the last time I was injured, Nate?
Pretty frequently. Didn't you just hurt your pinky or something, you little baby?
I did not. No, never injured. Perfect human.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, you got to put yourself out there more.
That's all the Cardinals news I have.
All right. Well, we're going to recap the movement that has happened around the league as the Cardinals stay dormant. But before we do that, we want to remind everybody that this show is listener supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Now's a great time to get in. We're ramping up for the regular season. We're tracking the moves around the league. We'll be firing up our fantasy baseball league here pretty soon. We've got some ideas for some things we want to do in the new year as our community grows. Subscribers of every level get access to our private Discord server. That's the heart of the podcast. It's the bird scored.
Tweet,
Hanging
tweet.
out of there. Tweet, tweet. Big love to our existing patrons. And if you're out there thinking, if you've gone to our site, we'd really appreciate it if you'd click that little button and join the community. Otherwise, if you want to help us in other ways, consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and telling your friends. People are waking up. Football is almost over, which is great. We love that. And
The Broncos are good this year. I learned that.
Wow. Cool.
Yep, that's all I got.
Peyton Manning still with them?
No, his name is Bo Nix, which I love.
Love a Bo.
Bonix. That's the guy's name.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's like a Star Trek name.
I know, right? And he's good, apparently.
Okay.
We're happy about it.
All right. Have you watched Star Trek Lower Decks?
Nope.
You've never really watched any Star Trek, right?
Nope.
Well, Lower Decks is awesome, and a really good entry point for people if they're not really. I mean, it's absurd. It's like Star Trek meets like early Rick and Morty. I think there's actually some of the creators came from Rick and Morty, so it takes the Star Trek universe and then just makes it like disgusting and over the top, which is a lot of fun. And it's got a lot of little nods for the deep Star Trek fans. But Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome are the voices, and they're awesome. So
You're
check it out.
plugging a different show on our show's plugs?
And after you watch the seasons of that, consider joining the Patreon and then telling your friends about our podcast. People are they're waking up. Hambone, it's about to be baseball season. If people want to follow us elsewhere, where can they find us online?
We got a Blue Sky. You can come look at our skeets on Blue Sky if you like to do that. We are on Instagram at Talking About Birds. We got a TikTok. Come TikTok with us. This show is available on Spotify and YouTube if you want to listen to us there. You can find all of that information, all the podcasty stuff, t-shirts, everything at talkingaboutbirds.com. Of course, you can email us thoughts and questions, whatever you may have, to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And as always, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message at 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
Great enunciation there, Hambone. Reach out to us. We always love to hear from people who are listening to the show. All right, so there was some movement around the league. Hambone, you want to start breaking it down for us?
Oh, we got deals flying all over the place. Other teams are trying to win this year, which is very exciting for them. The Giants are in agreement with Justin Verlander, the ageless wonder. 1-year deal reportedly worth $15 million.
Do you think the Giants are intending to compete this year, or is this exactly what we were talking about before, hoping to get half a season of Verlander and being able to ship him to a contender midseason?
Your take is embarrassing, Nathan. They brought in World Series winner Buster Posey to run the baseball operation. Do you think they're just doing that so that they can watch the Dodgers and Padres lap them, the Diamondbacks lap them in their own division again? No, they are pushing in. They have a rotation of Logan Webb, a potential Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray, Cy Young winner, Jordan Hicks, fastest fastball on earth, Kyle Harrison, youngster, and JV, multiple Cy Young Award winner.
Sure.
This team is stacked.
Okay. I'm putting all my money on the San Francisco Giants.
I don't know. Jung-Hoo Lee might have a good second year in the league.
Yeah.
We've talked about Willie Adames. Matt Chapman had a great year with them. I don't really see how they could view themselves as competitive right now. I still think that they're missing like a big time that dude type player, like a
Yeah.
top 15 player in baseball. Um, so I don't know, but I do think that they are pushing in to win, and I think that it would not surprise me if this kind of signing is what Buster Posey is quickly known for, and by that I mean bringing in some legacy player who's clearly past his prime on a 1 year deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard not to still think of the Giants as basically the fourth place team in the NL West right now. And I don't think it's really even that close. Although, of course, you never know how things may break, right? But I just don't see them having near the firepower that obviously the Dodgers or the Padres and now the Diamondbacks have. So you're
Yeah,
really hoping for that sudden 86 win season that gets you the second playoff spot, the second wild card, right, or third wild card. That's your best shot, which is fair. I mean, it's not a crazy. The Cardinals could push for 86 wins if they really wanted to, which
yeah.
is kind of what they keep hinting at too. So it's not crazy to think that any of these middling teams, one of them will make the playoffs. There'll be a team in 2025 that was projected to be third or fourth place in the division and will get the third wild card spot, right? So why not the Giants? But
I
it's just
actually think the Cardinals and Giants have a lot in common right now.
yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and that's where I'd like almost would like to see the Cardinals do the JV move just so they could trade him, right? But that's where Giants like they suffer from the same problem, which I guess isn't inherently a problem, but it can lead to bad decision making, which is that they feel like they need to win every single year, and it kind of undercuts their
Well,
long term success.
the Giants deserve a little more credit because they've tried to sign Carlos Correa. They
True.
tried to sign and probably should have signed Aaron Judge. They, reportedly offered him more money than the
Yeah,
Yankees, but Judge came back. They've done their due diligence. They tried to bring in Bryce Harper years
kind
ago.
of. I mean, how much credit do we give for trying? We don't know
I
what
mean
those
they
conversations.
they put more money on the table than anybody else.
Yeah,
Carlos Correa has a ankle that's made of Swiss cheese. Aaron Judge just took a different team. Bryce Harper, I can't remember how that all shook out. It was too long ago now. But the Cardinals haven't done any of that.
yeah. Well, they used to. Remember, the Cardinals had the bigger offer for David Price. The Cardinals had a giant offer for Giancarlo, and he turned it down. So
Yeah,
there have been those things, and it was few and far credit, given to coming in second place in a bidding war.
sure, sure.
But I get what you're saying. Like there's a few decisions out there that completely change how this team looks. Like
Yeah,
if the Giants had Aaron Judge right now, we probably would be talking about them as a real contender.
yeah, yeah. I think so. All right, moving down, but staying in California, the A's and Brent Rooker have agreed to a 5 year extension worth $60 million.
There you go, Hambone, your guy. He will not be a St. Louis Cardinal and unlikely to be traded at this point. I mean, they're locking him in, right?
They really are. I mean, this is them. It is. It has to be annoying for Oakland fans and just anybody who cares about baseball. But the fact that as soon as the partnership with Oakland has been severed, they bring in the likes of Severino and Springs. They extend one of their best homegrown players, a waiver wire pickup, who turned into a solid player. Um,
Well,
it's great for Brent Rooker, and maybe it's great for the future of A's baseball, but simultaneously very frustrating. But good for Brent.
It's the exact playbook that the Rams did in St. Louis and others have done.
Yeah,
You purposefully grind the organization into the dirt to where it sucks for everybody, and then you blame the fans for it sucking, and then you leave, and then because you actually are owned by billionaires or near billionaires, you just decide then to turn on the resources because you want the team to have a good footing in their new city,
yeah,
which we saw the Rams do in LA, and other teams have tried to pull off this exact same thing because it works, right? If you if they go to Vegas or wherever, those fans there either don't care about Oakland or don't care about baseball. And if you can walk in and have like a competitive team, you I mean, that is the best way to start your franchise there. Or think about like this isn't exactly the same, but the Vegas hockey team being so good immediately, or the St. Louis soccer team being so good immediately does wonders to building an immediate fan base. So it's like just makes sense from a business perspective to suddenly put resources into the Athletics and try to build an effective team. It's just, yeah, it's so frustrating to see it play out exactly the same way over and over every single time. And the only people that get hurt are the fans, which are the entire point of this entire industry. So yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. You look at their team and, on roster resource right now, and their top 4 in their lineup are Lawrence Butler, who broke out like a boss last year, Brent Rooker, who had an MVP level season, JJ Bleday, who finally lived up to his prospect pedigree, and Shea Langoliers. And then I already talked about Severino and Springs. Like, we've talked about it a few times, but you can see how these A's might be pretty good. And the AL West is not awesome right now with the Astros kind of taking a step back. And I don't know,
Also,
it would be fun for baseball, but frustrating ultimately.
Yeah. Take a look at some of Soderstrom's underlying numbers as well. Looks like that dude might hit 40 home runs at the major league level. So at the very least, it certainly seems like the Athletics are going to hit a lot of home runs in 2025.
Well, not to mention the field they're going to be playing in.
Yeah, so I was looking at that the other day, actually. So the Sacramento park it is a pitcher-friendly park when it comes to the minor leagues, but that is a different scale than major league level. So no matter, the Coliseum was the worst park for hitters in baseball, and this will be an upgrade. So
well, that's mostly because of the foul territory in the Coliseum, though. To be clear, yeah,
fair. But it all matters, right? That's less.
It does.
A lot of these guys that are hitting home runs are also prone to pop-ups and things like that that'll go into the foul territory or longer fly balls.
Pick up an Oakland A in your fantasy league.
Basically what I'm saying. I think
an Athletic.
Yeah.
Sorry, they're not Oakland A's anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, what we all kind of want, obviously, is for the A's or management to pay for this, right? They need to pay for this. But then you're like, well, I like there being good baseball teams, and these players didn't get to pick what team they were on other than maybe some of the free agents, and it's complicated. So it's like I want to root for Lawrence Butler. He seems awesome. I like the rookery. There's a lot to root for on this team. It just, it kind of hurts.
Yeah. Nate's, you brought this player up a few weeks ago. Hyesung Kim has decided on a landing spot for his free agency, former player from the KBO. He and the Dodgers agreed to a 3-year contract worth $12.5 million. I don't know what to say about how many roster spots do the Dodgers have?
Well, they traded Gavin Lux in a follow-up move to this.
It just feels like all they do is acquire players. And I know that they have the same amount as everyone else, but it does not feel like that. How often have we said this offseason?
Well, they just don't carry they don't every roster spot is like a highly paid Major League Baseball player. So it just feels like they have more. But they shipped off Gavin Lux to the Cincinnati Reds, so we'll be seeing him. They certainly gave him plenty of chances. Wouldn't surprise me if he does well with Cincinnati, but I don't know. We'll see. But they unless something changes, which absolutely it's so good, it's the Dodgers. They could go and sign Bregman or something and completely change all of this. But right now, it seems like Hyesung is going to be their starting second baseman. So he's locking in a starting position on the best team in baseball, and apparently turned down other teams and other offers for more money because he just wanted to play on the Dodgers, which is that like flywheel that it's like, well, it makes it It just when you make your team good, it actually can be also financially beneficial to your team because then you can start getting these deals like this too. So,
He also referenced Hyunjin Ryu as part of the reason of making this decision. Other Korean players being there and being successful and popular.
yeah.
Um, yeah, love for the Cardinals to be a part of this, wave of Asian players coming
Yeah.
over.
Well,
But
we will see if Cam, we talked about him like I said, like you said a couple of weeks ago, but like there's a reason also why his deal was 3 years for $12.5 million.
yeah,
It like he could be good. He should be a pretty good second baseman, and he should be fast. But it also might take a little while for his bat to develop. Ha-Sung Kim, who most considered to be a better player than Hyasung, took a couple years at the major league level. So we'll see how this plays out. I think it's probably a really good move for the Dodgers, and this cost is basically nothing for them. But this isn't necessarily like, oh man, the Dodgers wait, and of course they got the best guy on the market and slotted him at second base. He might take some time to develop. He's relatively light hitting.
and if it doesn't work out, they can move Mookie Betts to second base. They
True.
can move Max
True.
Muncy to second base. They can move Tommy Edman to second base.
Yeah.
Chris Taylor and Miguel Rojas could also play second base. They're fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
This is a very smart Dodgers moves. Like Nate said, this required them to trade Gavin Lux. Dodgers and Reds have announced a trade of Gavin Lux to Cincinnati for outfield prospect Mike Sirota and the Reds' competitive balance round A selection. That is the 37th overall pick next summer. So yeah, I think Gavin Lux is a really interesting player. I think for a lot of different reasons. I think something, before he made the big leagues, he's one of the few prospects in recent memory who have gotten that 70 future value rating from Fangraphs and from a lot of other publications. I mean, this guy was seen as a 5-tool, future all-star, really, really big deal at shortstop. Obviously, he's had injuries and ineffectiveness, but he was also the starting second baseman for a World Series championship team last year. So, this guy, I think the Dodgers were just ready to cut from him.
Yeah.
But that ballpark, less pressure, turning the page, it's easy to see how this goes really well for the Reds.
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted while you were talking about that. Mike Sirota was like pinging a thing in my head that I could not connect it, and it's
Lincoln Park.
Yes, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Mike Shinoda.
I know your brain too well.
I can't believe you. So you thought it too, then? At least there's no way.
No, I did. I was actually thinking of Mike Soroka, the pitcher.
The pitcher, yeah.
But I could tell as soon as you said that, and I know that you and I both owned Hybrid Theory back in the day.
Of course.
So
Mike Shinoda.
Yeah, I think he's the rapper.
Yeah.
He's the Lincoln Park rapper.
The
hip hopster.
Yeah. You think he's gonna drop a mixtape at any point?
Lincoln Park is back. They're a band. They just put out a new record.
Yeah, they replaced Chester Bennington, R.I.P.
Yeah, with a person who is apparently high up in the Scientology church. So it's all good over there.
I love it. That's awesome. That's my favorite thing. I love that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck, Gavin Lux. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, cool. I guess we'll move on. The Orioles have announced they've signed Charlie Morton to a 1-year deal that is reportedly worth $15 million. Who would have guessed that Justin Verlander and Charlie Morton would have signed the same deal in 2025?
Yeah, I'm wondering what the take is on this from Orioles fans is. Like Charlie Morton has been very effective for quite a while. But also when you're in your window, you're like right now is like they are peak win the World Series, and the thing they need is pitching. and this is their big pitching signing so far. And you got Corbin Burns going to the Diamondbacks. Like, I think that this will help the Orioles,
Yes.
but what a ultimately probably disappointing signing if this is really one of the only additions they make to their pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean their moves have been weird. They brought in Tyler O'Neill, which feels like another piece that they didn't really need. I think that they have every Orioles fans have every right to be frustrated when you see this new owner says that he's going to come in and splash some money around. And I think that you're just going to be inherently disappointed unless they bring in Jack Flaherty. I mean, is Jack Flaherty
Yeah,
our best starting pitcher available right now? I think
probably.
just looking at the list really quick, I think that he is the best starting pitcher. And obviously, his Orioles career did not go super well at the trade deadline. So Orioles fans are going to be probably disappointed by that either way. And it looks like I'm just taking a quick scan. Then we're getting the likes of Andrew Heaney, who's not going to make anyone excited. Nick Pivetta, I think, is a guy who
He
maybe
could
you're a
be
little
good.
more excited about. And then we're talking about Patrick Corbin and Kyle Gibson and players like that. So yeah, I mean, I think they could have gotten Kikuchi, they could have gotten Nick Martinez, they could have gotten Max Fried. I think Max Fried would have been a huge win for
Sure.
that organization. Um, but maybe they're looking towards next year. I agree with you. Like, if not now, when? When are you
Right.
going to go get that guy?
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, to give Morton, all due respect, he threw 165 innings last year with a 3.99 xFIP. So if you think that your
He is
offense,
good.
yeah, like if you think your offense is your strength and you just need someone to go out there and pitch and you're going to win games on offense as long as you don't get completely blown out, like that's pretty effective. But I mean, it is funny though, even with that 165 innings worth 1.1 F4 at the major league level.
Yeah.
So like he's
Well,
just throwing a ball so you can get to the end of the game and you need the rest of the team to really step up.
you're signing a 41-year-old player to a 1-year deal. I don't think any
Yeah.
team is really going to be excited about that.
Yeah.
The odds of him getting hurt obviously grow higher every year. Um, the odds of him losing effectiveness grow higher every year. That being said, this is kind of wild. He has essentially kept his fastball velocity. It hasn't really. I'm looking at his career. It's never really dipped. Um, Maybe this is the year though. Nelson Cruz stopped hitting bombs at some point, and
Yeah. At
it's
some
gonna come
point.
up. It's gonna come to Charlie Morton as well. But yeah, I think you'd have to be frustrated. Like I said, they should have either retained Corbin Burns, got Max Fried, or use that crazy prospect capital to go get somebody else. They're a team that probably should have signed Sonny Gray. There's a lot of things that the Orioles could have done.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing on the league news I wanted to talk about was the Hall of Fame tracker that's going on right now. We're coming to the end of Hall of Fame voting relatively soon here. I thought it'd be fun to check in right now. It is currently looking like Ichiro and CC Sabathia are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers, which I think you and I are aligned with. Ichiro currently has 100%
That's
of the vote of
that's
people who
the
have
yeah.
shown their ballot.
That's the only like real story to me at this point. And frankly, I really hope that he is 100% and that this continues to etch away at that just completely bullshit like tradition or whatever you want to call it of people voting no on these obvious candidates out of some sort of weird loyalty to like the to Babe Ruth or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Isn't it? It's Babe Ruth, I think, where like someone didn't get 100% from that era of
Mariano
baseball.
Rivera is the only person to ever. Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter are the only people to have 100%.
Right. But it all harkens back. Like a bunch of these writers have all said, like, well, if Babe Ruth can't get 100%,
Yeah,
then no one should, or something
sure,
like
sure.
that. Right. And then there's some people who like, okay, like I know this guy's going to get in, so I'll use my votes for other players and things like that. And that is, I think, very, very stupid and not the
It
point
is.
of the voting. So there's so many guys that should be 100%. Um, I think it kind of should just be like most people who get in should be 100%. And this silliness
Yeah.
of like whether they deserve to be
I,
100% for someone else, it drives me crazy.
I am hopeful that the getting through the glut of the PED guys will also kind of help clear this
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I agree. Ichiro should be 100%. I understand if you don't want to vote for CC Sabathia, but I would 100% make
Yeah.
him a first ballot Hall of Famer. You take in, he's had a couple of just handful of unbelievable years. He had longevity and he had postseason success. Billy Wagner looks like he is trending to get in, which is great because he is about to fall off the
Yeah.
ballot. And I think that he belongs in the game. Carlos Beltran is right on the bubble. He's sitting around 76% right now. But it seems like if it continues to go this way, he might get in, which, well, I guess, do
So,
you have any hot takes on Carlos
oh man,
Beltran getting in?
I will say that I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
And if you are wondering about the legacy, he's sort of a bellwether of the legacy of the other Houston Astro potential Hall of Famers. People affiliated with the cheating scandals. Like, what's that going to do to their Hall of Fame chances? Because if he gets in, he was right there in the middle of it too. Um, then Altuve gets in, right?
Yeah.
Altuve probably gets in anyway. But if you're thinking that there might be uh, Hall of Fame repercussions to the uh, Astros cheating scandal, and the first guy eligible gets in, like that's the end of that discussion, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether you think that should be the case or not, that's different. But like that's what's on top of my mind for this, because outside of that, like I think Beltran should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of him as a player, and he was a major part of a Cardinals run that was really awesome and a lot of fun. And uh, he tore his shoulder robbing David Ortiz of a grand slam in the World Series,
What a
which would
great
have
play.
made that dude's numbers even more ridiculous than that. So I'm a big fan of Beltran.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting the cheating and the legacy element of it.
Yeah. Um, he's an interesting player. But I agree. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Um, but the Astros thing is, that was his last year in baseball too, which is also kind of crazy. What a way
Well,
to
and
go out.
there is an argument. The counter to everything I just said is that like, well, he was there, but like he was a minor part of it compared to like the players on the field. But I think that the more time you get in between then and now and the voting, the nuances of the scandal are gonna go away, and it's just
Yeah.
like they're all tainted by it. And if one gets in, then I think that removes it for the rest of them too.
Yeah. And then one point I wanted to kind of pick on was that Chase Utley is currently only at 52%, second year on the ballot. Highly unlikely to get in this year unless, the rest of the voters just are a total windfall for him. But I just wanted to take a second to make the argument. I think Chase Utley should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's one of the better second basemen in the history of baseball. I think that there was a period of time when he should have been a perennial MVP candidate and never really got the love because of where we were at as far as like the consideration for modern statistics that we care about that just
Mm-hmm.
weren't as talked about as much in 2005 through 10 or whatever his true peak years were. But I think he is an all-timer. I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the best players I can remember. He is such a fixture in my like high school and post high school baseball fandom.
Yeah.
The fights that the Phillies and the Cardinals had and some of those playoff runs and everything like that. And he he's sitting at almost 62 FWAR. And just all of his rate numbers, everything. Like I said, I just think he is one of the best basemen to ever do it and
Yeah.
deserves to be in.
I have similar sort of mind share of him. Like he just dominates my perception of that period of Cardinal baseball and the 2011 World Series and the Carpenter game against the Phillies. Like I just like wrap up Utley right into the center of all of that. Him and Ryan Howard and Rollins and all of that. But obviously Utley, the best of all of them. And I agree, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I actually think that this is the arc that a lot of these kind of guys take, is that, right now there's some top of line people getting the votes, getting all the press. And then there are guys that are sort of middle of the road that are getting part of the votes. And then their share grows and grows, and they end up getting in their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth year or whatever. And that seems like probably the likely path for Utley. I'd be very surprised for him to have this amount of support and not get in. But it could go either way.
Yeah. And that is all the league news we have today.
All right, Hambone. Well, after I frankly embarrassed you last week in our game, I thought we would go back to one that you typically excel at. This week, we're going to play another edition of Who Is This Guy?
All right. Chase Utley.
Right. Damn it. Famous Cardinal Chase Utley.
Yeah, of course.
It would be interesting to do just across all of MLB. I wonder how good you would be if I just did anybody playing in Major League Baseball.
Terrible.
I'd have to. The clues would have to be far more specific. Than
I was going to say, there are 20,000 people who have ever played baseball? That is
time to narrow it down with 5 simple questions. All right. If you've not heard this game before, I have 5 clues about a baseball player who has spent time at the major league level with the St. Louis Cardinals. These clues start very vague and get increasingly more specific. Ben makes a guess after every clue. Ben, are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. This player was born on August 23rd, 1995 in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, Tennessee. 1995. So he's probably still playing. Unless he washed out really quickly. Knoxville. No one from Tennessee is. I'm trying to think of who a Tennessee Cardinal is, and no one is really coming to mind. Although Sonny Gray played. Oh wait, is he a Tennessee kid? He might be. I'm gonna say Sonny Gray.
No.
Damn it.
Sonny Gray a little bit older too. I think probably born in like 90, 91 or something like that.
Is he? Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good point. Okay.
All right. This player was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in the 5th round of the 2014 amateur draft, and then out of high school, and then was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2017 for international draft money.
Traded to the Cardinals 2017. Ooh. So that makes me think of Zepchinski, but I think Zepchinski is older than that, and I don't think he's from Tennessee. Trying to think of Cardinals who were traded from the Blue Jays. No. Probably a young player. I'm guessing. Oh, man. This is difficult. Riley O'Brien, he's not from Tennessee. Who came from the Blue Jays?
In 2017.
In 2017. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Should I look up some hit songs from 2017? Will that help?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming up with nothing. Man, Blue Jays, 2017.
You might say that this question is making you humble.
Sit
by
down.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna say Jose Fermin. He's from Tennessee, right?
Ben, you have some wild thoughts by DJ Khaled. All right, that is not correct. Obviously.
Yeah.
All right. This player, outside of the Blue Jays, aforementioned Blue Jays and Cardinals, has also played for Cleveland and Washington.
Oh, damn it. I should have known. Lane, the Train, Thomas. Give it to me.
You got it. Yep. Lane Thomas.
Damn it. I forgot he came from the Blue Jays.
It's always hard, those international, they just don't, it doesn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And it gives you an idea of what the Blue Jays thought of Lane Thomas.
Yeah.
They traded him for international draft money, which is about the lowest level trade you can do.
And he is now like a big league regular.
He is. And some people point to him as another representation of the Cardinals, trading off a guy who's good. While that's ultimately true, like, it took a couple years in Washington also of every day at bats for him to get to where he is now. So, you could argue maybe, well, they should have just let him play 2 seasons straight here in center or right, but like that just wasn't going to be the case.
No, and it's not like he's an MVP candidate. He is a big league regular.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Which is respectable.
Yeah. So here's the rest of my facts for you. In 2021, he led the NL in assists from center field.
Very nice.
In 2023, he led the NL in putouts and assists from right field. And last year, stole over 30 bases for the first time in his career.
Dang. Yeah, he is that. He's like a low-grade 5-tool player. Like,
yeah. My last one, because it always try to put it on a platter for you. While Blaine the Train may be a real pain, you'll want to make sure you pay the toll before you drive this lane.
I mean, I would have gotten it from that, but what does that mean? That is completely incoherent.
Just a bunch of words to try to make you think of Lane Thomas.
Okay, I was making sure I wasn't completely like, did your brain fall out of your head? Okay.
Well, Blaine the Train is a real pain is a Dark Tower reference. He's Lane the Train, and you got to pay the toll before you drive the lane.
Okay.
It made sense. It would have given you the answer, which was ultimately the goal.
It would have. You are not wrong.
But yeah, I mean, do you remember who the Cardinals traded him for?
Who the Cardinals traded Lane Thomas for? They traded him to the Nationals, right?
Correct.
For... Damn.
It's a funny one.
I can't remember right now.
Let's just say, if this guy were pitching, Lane Thomas would have no problem ramping up his stolen base count.
Okay.
John Lester.
John Lester.
Remember the whole thing with John Lester? He can't throw to first.
Yeah. He saved the Cardinals that year.
He really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Lane Thomas for John Lester.
Wow.
Which, I mean, honestly, fine trade. Like, the Cardinals got what they needed out of Lester, and
sure.
2.5 years later, Lane Thomas was a really good player for the Nationals. So pretty good deal overall. And then Lane got traded midseason last year to the Guardians as part of their playoff push.
Right. And he didn't really perform for them, but that's okay. He tried. Yeah, that's funny. That makes me hate that version of the Cardinals too. Man, I'm ready for the new front office.
May there never be another midseason trade for John Lester, J.A. Happ. Let's see.
I feel like J.A. Happ actually looked pretty good in a Cardinals uniform. John Lester was getting by on pure magic.
Sure. Cardinal Devil magic.
Yeah. Yeah, it came back for a moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that bright note, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. And we'll be back next week, hopefully with some more Cardinal news. But certainly we'll have a packed show. There's always something for us to talk about. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. And until next week, let's go Cardinals.
Let's go.
Can you see the big cut on my lip?
Yes.
I was playing hide and seek with the kids, and I bent down to hide behind a dollhouse and fucking nailed my lip on the corner of it. I was just in the corner, bleeding into my hand, hoping to not be found.
Wow.
Yep. Sacrifices, Hambone.